I've had a week in China, kind of fantastic real-time period to be here as this stimulus is coming out almost every day. I'm actually standing near an EV car show, and every time I come to China, there's something about technology that really kind of impacts me. EV is definitely part of that story. I was in one that has a nice little digital display in the armrest to control your seat, very geeky. Robots in restaurants, very kind of Japan-esque, I suppose, a development. But technology is not the entire Chinese economy. EVs, battery, solar panels, about 3.5% of GDP. It's the other 97% that needs to be our focus. And on that front, the stimulus is all everybody offshore wants to talk about. And the impact here in terms of the stock market and account openings and developing a bit of fervour about the market is very real. There's no question about that. But amongst the business community, much less discussion of the stimulus than I expected. It's surprising, given the scale and the breadth of the announcements that we've seen. Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce, National Development Reform Commission, People's Bank of China, the department responsible for housing. Such a broad range of efforts, certainly the broadest range of departmental effort from the Chinese government and bureaucracy that I have seen, says this is a very real stimulus, a very real policy effort, but business taking a wait and see approach. What there is discussion about is what's really required to spark consumption onto a stronger and higher plane. And remember, for China, we should put consumption at the center of our discussions rather than industrialization. Most accept China needs to raise the consumption share of GDP. It's currently about 50%. Some simple maths: if China wants to sustain growth at 5% in real terms, it needs to grow consumption at faster than 5% in real terms with a shrinking population. So per capita consumption needs to grow more quickly than that. And of course, house prices have been falling. Housing makes up about 60% of the household balance sheet. So that's obviously a significant drag on households' propensity to spend. The policy package over time is likely to have at least some impact on starting to stabilise the housing sector over the next year or so. But remember, with a shrinking population, the days of China reporting rising house prices, everywhere, and rising construction everywhere are almost certainly behind us. What we're likely to see going forward is a much more pocketed housing sector. So that big wealth effect is certainly behind us. Consumption likely to be much more of a policy focus over the years and decades ahead. And maybe I'll conclude with, well, what's the stimulus likely to mean? It's difficult to view it as a growth stimulus. It's so different from 2008. The scale in kind of pure renminbi terms is now something similar based on the announcements to date. But 2008 was very compressed. This one's much more elongated over as much as 3 years for some of the measures. 2008, very final demand driven. This one, very balance sheet driven. It's designed, seems like, more to put a floor under growth than generate a big upswing. I think what we can say is this sort of policy package is now probably part of the China economy new normal, as China seeks to sustain growth in, let's call it, a 3 to 5% range over the years ahead. I think it's going to require continued policy effort to work against that demographic drag and that debt drag. China still an $18 trillion US economy, lots of business, just growing much more slowly.